Okay, we're going to take a quick lesson on how to clean mice. The first part of the lesson is going to involve just the stuff we're going to need, and then we'll proceed with cleaning several different mice, hopefully quickly. What you're going to need is some type of cleaner, alcohol and water, plain water, isopropyl alcohol will work just fine. The objective here is just to get some kind of light duty solution. I would recommend something like alcohol because it doesn't leave a residue and it's not too harsh on the plastic. Rag, doesn't matter what you use, something lint free. This is just an old sock. You can take it, and the objective using this particular thing is when you're cleaning your mice, what you want to do is, rather than dip it in water or take your mouse and put the mouse in water, what you want to do is just take and spray a small area, and it doesn't have to be really wet, it just got to be damp, and use that to clean your mouse. Okay, second thing we're going to need for tools is some instrument. Now there can be an assortment of instruments. A knife to clean between the buttons. This is just a little teeny utility knife that I have here in the office. Any kind of object will work that will be somewhat firm and hard, but not do any damage to the mice and not be dangerous to yourself. You want to keep safety in mind when you're doing this. Standard paper clip, you can unbend it, use that to get down in the nooks and crannies and clean the areas out of grease and grit. Fingernail file. Fingernail file and ballpoint pens. Any one of these will work for cleaning different things, and the ballpoint pens will be used for opening up the mice with the actual balls inside of the bottom. The fingernail file can be used as well for opening the device up, but I'll just use the ballpoint pens to show you it's a little safer. Now let's quickly go through the different styles of mice. Logitech trackball. Standard 2-button mouse. This one's fairly easy to pop the ball out. It just sits inside there, and you'll hear the little clicking sound. That actually locks it in place, and it does tend to pop out by itself if you're picking it up, moving it around, so do be careful with it. Anyway, the thing I want to emphasize in this case, the red ball is for optical mouse. It bounces a light out of the little hole here. I'll get my little fingernail file. Right here is the optical window. That optical window basically shines an invisible light out and bounces it off of the ball. And basically, in cleaning it, you want to just wipe that window clean to make sure that it can see the little marks that are in the red ball. There's actually little black dots here to guide the mouse cursor when it bounces the light off the different dots on the ball. Anyway, the other thing that we're going to point out here is the contact points. Now, every mouse, doesn't matter what type it is, what brand it is, doesn't matter how different it appears, every mouse is going to have a contact point. And the contact points are going to be specifically where you're looking for the dirt, grease, grit, and grime. And you'll notice this one here has a little contact point by my finger there, and there's 3 on almost every mouse is going to have 2 or 3 contact points. You'll see right there right here, you'll see the contact points. The objective here is to clean those contact points. You can use a paper clip, you can use this, you can take your rag and dip the rag down in there and just carefully wipe it out, get the grit, grime, and dirt out of the area that you want. Any grease or anything like that that's sticking too tenaciously, you can just take your pointed instrument and you can carefully scrape out the area to get out the dirt. Okay, you also want to clean in between here. You can use the paper clip, or you can take the other instruments and just carefully work your way around the buttons. And the reason you want to work around the buttons carefully is you want to make sure they're moving freely, that you're getting a good solid click and that you're not binding up on anything. That pretty much covers this particular mouse. I'm not going to go too deeply into the cleaning part or wiping it down. Most people could do that without too much instruction. What I am covering today is going to be just the different styles, how to open them, how to lock them up, and obviously what tools you want to use to clean the optics. Now, in this case, you want to use a ballpoint pen. This mouse is another one by Logitech. It is a trackball, 3-button with the rollers. Okay, very stout, good little mice. This one tends to be more stable in your hands. You don't have to move. You actually risk a lot less personal injury for like carpal tunnel syndrome, because you're not moving your hand back and forth and rotating your wrist to get this one to work. Simply rest your hand on it. Anyway, if you note right down here, I have a mark. There's an index mark there, and there's a little hole right here, and it's just like a divot, and you can take the tip of a ballpoint pen and stick it in there. And you know, in the case of most of the mice and mice balls, the retainer always rotates counterclockwise to remove it. So if I take this and I rotate it counterclockwise, that will allow me to pop the ball out. And I just flip it over in my hand, pop it out. You've got the ball, you've got the retainer. Make note right here, and again, if you notice right here, I have the thing carefully laid out. You notice that the retainer, there's a locking ring there, and you've got the little feet here that stick inside there. Some of these are directional, which means if you notice, the locking retainer there has 2 different sizes, and that means that this will only index and go back together one direction, which means when you put this back together, that index mark has to line up here or it won't fit. If you try turning this thing around so that these things are pointed in the wrong direction, it'll fit on one side, the other side won't go in because it's too big to fit into the slot. Something to keep in mind. Again, you have your little window. Let me point that out here real quickly with my ballpoint pen. Right here, where that shiny piece is, just below the shiny piece is the window for the optics. Again, right down here there's a contact point that you want to clean, and up here and again over here there's a contact point. I can point out all these to you, but every mouse is going to have the contact points. Every mouse is going to have in some cases a retainer, in some cases it's not necessarily retained, but it will have the optics and or the contact points. That's the critical point when you're cleaning your mice, because the contact point is how you're going to actually find the dirt and grit and grease that's going to be causing the issue to make you have to clean the mice to begin with. Now, this pops back in here only one way, and it has to be indexed, and then when you rotate this around, you're going to hear it click. Now, some of these can be rather tough when they come apart and go together. That's why it's good to don't be afraid to get a little forceful with it. Some of these are going to lock up pretty tight on you. Now let's go to the standard style of mice. Now, let me mention here that there are other styles of mice here. I'm going to be doing these with the balls that are removable. However, the new